Imagine you are kneeling beside a still pool of water. You are thirsty. You lean forward to drink. And just before your lips touch the surface, something looks back at you. Two eyes, a mouth, a face, staring up from inside the water, moving exactly when you move. For a moment, you freeze. Is that another person? Did something just crawl into the water and hide? You reach out. The face reaches out too. You pull back. So does it. Slowly, something strange settles in. That isn't someone else. That's you. This moment, some version of it, happened to every human who ever lived, long before anyone invented a mirror. Water was the first reflection anyone ever saw, and for most of human history, it was the only one. So the question is simple. When did humans stop relying on accidental reflections in puddles and lakes and actually build something whose entire purpose was to show you your own face? When was the first real mirror? And why does something so small, a flat, shiny object, turn out to be tangled up with one of the strangest questions in psychology? When do you actually know that you exist? Let's go back, not to ancient Egypt, not to Rome, further than that. Imagine you are living in central Anatolia, what is now Turkey, around 8,000 years ago. You are part of one of the first large farming communities on Earth, a place archaeologists now call Çatalhöyük. You don't have metal yet, you don't have glass. But the ground beneath you holds something almost as good. Obsidian, volcanic glass, black and glassy, formed deep underground and pushed to the surface by ancient eruptions. Someone in your community has learned to do something remarkable with it. They take a raw, jagged piece of obsidian and grind it down, slowly, patiently, hour after hour, smoothing the surface until it stops looking like rock at all, until it starts looking like water that never moves. This isn't fiction. Archaeologists working at Çatalhöyük, first excavated by James Mellert and later by Ian Hodder, uncovered polished obsidian discs dating back to roughly 6000 BCE, small enough to fit in the palm of a hand, reflective enough to show a face. They are, as far as we currently know, the oldest manufactured mirrors on Earth. And here's the detail that surprises most people. These weren't scattered everywhere, used casually by everyone. Across all of central Anatolia, archaeologists have found only a small number of them. Some studies put the known total at around 50, and many were found in graves, buried with the dead, placed carefully beside women, in particular in what appear to be ritual or ceremonial contexts. So maybe this wasn't just about vanity. Maybe seeing your own reflection, for the very first time in human history as a deliberate, repeatable act, felt less like grooming and more like something closer to magic. But here's where the story gets stranger. Because a mirror doesn't just show you a face, it asks you a question. Is that me? And that question turns out to be one of the hardest things a developing brain ever has to answer. Imagine you're a psychologist in 1970. Your name is Gordon Gallup, and you're about to run an experiment that will change how scientists think about animal minds. You take a chimpanzee. While it's asleep, you place an odorless red mark on its eyebrow, somewhere it cannot see or feel. When it wakes up, you place a mirror in front of it. If the chimpanzee looks at the mirror and touches the mark on the glass, that tells you nothing new. But if it reaches up and touches the mark on its own face, something remarkable just happened. It didn't see another chimpanzee with a red mark. It understood that the animal in the mirror was itself, Gallup's chimpanzee's past, and that simple test, now called the mirror self-recognition test, became one of the most famous tools in the study of animal minds. Since then, only a small number of species have reliably passed it. The great apes, elephants, dolphins, and a few others. Most animals never do. They react to their reflection as though it's a stranger, forever. So naturally, the next question was obvious. What about us? Imagine you're a researcher a few years later, running the same test, but this time on human babies. You dab a small red mark on an infant's nose without them noticing. Then you sit them in front of a mirror and watch. A 6-month-old baby stares at the reflection with fascination. Sometimes they smile at it, sometimes they reach out and pat the glass, but they almost never touch their own nose. To them, that face in the mirror is simply another baby, a fascinating one, not them. Run the same test on a child around 18 months to 2 years old, and something shifts. The child looks at the mirror, looks at the mark, and then, unmistakably, reaches up and touches their own face. Developmental psychologist Beulah Amsterdam ran one of the earliest versions of this study on human infants, and later researchers refined it further. The pattern holds up again and again. Somewhere between roughly 18 and 24 months of age, something changes in a child's brain, and the reflection stops being a stranger. It becomes unmistakably, unmissably, them. Here's the part that should stop you for a second. That shift, the moment a child first understands that the person in the mirror is them, doesn't happen because someone explained it. No parent sits their toddler down and teaches them the concept of self. It emerges, quietly on its own, once the brain is developed enough to support it. Some researchers argue this moment reflects something enormous, the earliest measurable sign of self-awareness, not just recognizing a face, recognizing that the face belongs to a you that exists separately from everyone else in the room. It's worth being honest about the limits here too. Not every scientist agrees on exactly what a pass on the mirror test really proves. Some argue it might only show that an animal or a child has learned to use a reflection as a tool without necessarily proving a deep sense of self underneath. The debate isn't fully settled. But the pattern of when this ability appears, across so many different children and even different species, is remarkably consistent, which means a mirror isn't just a piece of polished stone or glass. It's a kind of test your brain eventually passes, whether or not anyone built the mirror on purpose to test you. So think about that ancient toolmaker in Çatalhöyük, grinding obsidian by hand for hours, turning volcanic rock into something smooth enough to hold a face. They likely had no idea they were creating an object that, thousands of years later, scientists would use to measure the emergence of self-awareness in children and chimpanzees. They just wanted to see themselves. And maybe that's the oldest impulse hiding underneath this whole story. Long before written language, long before cities, long before anyone asked a single philosophical question about identity, humans were already kneeling by ponds, polishing stone, just to answer one small, quiet question. Is that me? So here's a thought worth sitting with. The next time you glance at your own reflection, in a mirror, a window, a dark phone screen, you're repeating an act that stretches back further than most of recorded history, not just checking your appearance, confirming, in the smallest possible way, that you exist.